Hello, everyone. Welcome to our second talk in the Diversity and Inclusion in STEAMM Symposium. I'm more than happy to introduce Dr. Luisa Maria Diele Viegas. She's a postdoc researcher at the Universidade Federal do Alagoas in Brazil. She will be taking questions in English and Portuguese that you can post on our chat. And thank you very much, Luisa, for joining us. And you have the word now.
Thank you, Manolo. It's a pleasure for me to be here. I'll be sharing my screen now so you can see. My talk will be about possible paths to a more diverse and inclusive STEAM. So I am part of two networks of women in science. As you can see here, I am part of the Cunha Share Network and the Women in Zoology Network, both in Brazil. And I am a postdoctoral researcher at the Federal University of Alagoas. And I am also part of the COVID network, which is a network focusing on the COVID-19 issues. I am part of the gender group of this network. So we do research on gender issues during the COVID-19 pandemic. So what I'm planning to say about this issue today, the gender issue today, is regarding the current academic system. We have this system that is focused on publish or perish, and scientists are expected to publish in high impact journals and publish a lot so they can actually get a good position, tenure track position, or in Brazil, something in a public university or something like that. And this system, it takes us to several issues. So we have the STEAMM science, when we just split good work in different, in small articles that we publish just to make number of articles published. We have the Matilda effect, which is impacting mostly women, when women are underestimated in academia, and men usually do collaborations with other men. So women just get set aside in the academia and cannot go ahead and publish a lot as the men do. We have thus the imposter syndrome, where we just don't believe that we are capable of doing science, of working as a researcher, and this impacts directly on our mental health. So this system, this publish or perish system, it rewards fast-paced science, and excludes those scientists that do not fit in that profile. And most of the scientists that feels these are the mothers and caregivers, are underrepresented groups as a whole, and introspective people as well, because we have this system that we need to talk with others. We need to always be leaders in somehow, and not necessarily this is our profile, and this should not be a determinant for us to be a good scientist or not. So Uta Fritz in 2019 said that fast science is bad for both scientists and science. And when she talked about that, she's defending the slow science movement, which I will talk about in a few minutes. So the speed of science is that we need to publish fast, we need to work fast to get these numbers of publications. And the problem with that is that it's directly related to the structures of power and inequality that shape our society. So we have this the illusion that exists a racial supremacy, and that we have male, white male and cis-normative perspective in our society, that these people are more deserve to be in best positions. while women or transgender people or other groups, underrepresented groups, they just don't reach the best positions in academia because of this exclusive system that we live. So we have this selective ignorance, while we have like issues like the negationism and the creationism. We repudiate such ideologies. Why don't we repudiate misogyny, racism, and LGBTQIA plus phobia? Why don't we just repudiate these ideologies too? The problem is that we have a paradox where these systems are good for a group, for a small group. So they don't want to change the system because they are privileged by the system. So this ignorance is not really innocent. This ignorance is part of this is a strategy to keep this group in power while the underrepresented group remains underrepresented, remains set aside in the academic system and also in the political and social system that we have. So we have a discriminatory pyramid. So we have these several issues that involves the system that I am mentioning. So we have in the basis of these pyramids, we have the historical multiple discrimination. So we have a lot of cultural and historical ways of seeing different people. So we have racism, we have misogyny, we have everything that I'm talking. And with that, we have a monopoly, a scientific monopoly of this group of wild cisgender males, usually from the Northern Hemisphere. So we have besides that, we have a non-inclusive STEM education. So even to enter the academia is difficult for people that are not included in this privileged group. So we have women and people, Black people, and indigenous people that cannot even enter or even think about enter the scientific environment because their culture says that they cannot do that. They are not allowed to do that. Or they are not welcome in the academic environment. So when we decided to enter anyway, we have a hostile academic environment. We have harassment. We have lack of diversity. We have lack of support, and this leads us. Most of the time, we have the academic pipeline leak, where these groups just gave up of their dreams, gave up of their careers, and gave up of doing science because of all these things that I'm showing here. When we have a lot of us giving up from their positions, from their dreams, we have a very difficult career progression because we have mainly the same group in the power positions. We have always the same male, cisgender, white individuals in the power position. So we come back again to the scientific monopoly, and that goes and goes and goes. So here I present to you some papers that I worked with, focused on these different steps in the discriminatory pyramid. So we have since the hostile academic environment, the non-inclusive STEM education. Here we published this piece in Nature talking about that. We have this academic pipeline leak. We can see that in these two papers here. We have the harassment and hostile academic environment focused on transgender peoples in this paper published in Science recently. So we have that, and literature is growing. Literature on this topic is growing a lot, mostly in the last few years. And we have a lot of people that are thinking about that and discussing about that. So we have solutions for these issues. In this paper in Nature Human Behavior, we published exactly this pyramid and the possible solutions. And what we first need to break the persistence of ignorance to promote the inclusion and permanence of underrepresented groups in STEM fields. We need to acknowledge knowledge systems that are different from the Western standards. So we are not the only one that have knowledge, that have a way of produce knowledge. We have different knowledge. We have the indigenous knowledge. We have the traditional knowledge that is also important for our society. We need to stimulate the entry of underrepresented groups in the educational system. This is important because since we, as young girls, young Black people, we see the academia as a place where only white, male, cisgender, Western individuals can get there. And that's not the case. We need to change this way of thinking, and we need to show the kids, the young people, that everybody that wants to be scientists, they can become scientists. We need to develop zero tolerance policies against racism, misogyny, transphobia, and other forms of discrimination, because this is still a thing in academia. We feel that we have that not only in Brazil, but also in all around the world. I've been in the last 2 years, I've been in the United States, and I feel that I suffer that. And I can see that I'm not the only one. And I can see that we have a lot of discrimination still today. And we need to change that. And to change that, we need to inhibit acts of prejudice. We need to support the victims, and we need to punish harassers. So this is another thing that we need to do in our institutions. So we need to create these ways of punish the harassers. We have recently in a university in Brazil, one professor was he got out from the university because he was accused to be a harasser, and they decided to just take him off the university. And this is a good example of what can be done when we have such cases. So it's important to punish the harassers so we can stop this culture that is okay for you to just be a harasser in the academic environment, and to show that the underrepresented groups are welcomed in the academia. So we need to fight against the intrinsic bias at the universities, at research institutes, and editorial boards of scientific journals. We still have the dominance of white cisgender males in the editorial boards as well. And we need to provide funding for research led by people from underrepresented groups so we can stimulate them to do their research. And lastly, we have to implement institutional policies to retain these underrepresented groups in senior academic positions and change the current quantitative metrics to stop the academic gatekeeping system. So going back here in the idea of the slow science, when we talk about the quantitative metrics, we are talking about producing in that system that I spoke about in the beginning. So slow science is a way to do science in a more rewarding and pleasurable way, according to Lisa Leva. And one thing that is important to remember is that people are different and they also produce differently. So more than just focus on a slow science or a fast science movement, what I am here to say regarding that is that we need to find our balance on doing science. So to find a balance for doing science, we need to search for our own way of doing science. So each people are different, so we have different rhythms of producing. So we should not be based on a quantitative metric, because maybe we are doing different research that demands different timings, and we are doing science in different ways because we are different. People are diverse, and we need to respect this diversity also when we are evaluating the quality of the scientists. So I believe, and in this paper in the Nature Human Behavior, we talk about that we need to respect these peculiarities, and we need to focus on a science that is produced at our own pace. So the pace of producing science should not be relevant for evaluating our quality as a scientist. So that's why we need to think about our metrics, our quantitative metrics, to evaluate the quality of a science, or of a scientist. So yeah, to end my talk, I believe we need to recognize the problem that we have. We have this prejudice in academia. We have this segregation in academia. We have underrepresented groups that suffers to enter and stay in academia. This is how we recognize the problem. And we need to talk about it. So how we talk about it? Here we are talking about it during this symposia. We are talking about it in our labs. We are talking about it with our colleagues. And this is how we can change things. So to change things, we need also to think about people that are from these groups. So be inspired for people by people that are from underrepresented groups, and become inspiration in your own group. So if you are a woman, if you are a black person, if you are indigenous, if you are from some underrepresented groups, become inspiration to others. Show that you can be a scientist and you can do a good science, even considering that our system is fighting against us all the time. So we need to think, we need to discuss, we need to act towards a more inclusive and diverse science. So just to finish, I want you to think about it. Do you have a female reference in science? How many collaborations with women do you have? How many women are co-authors of your papers? And how many women you invited for your evaluation boards? So get this, just a few moments to think about that. If you wanted to share it in the chat, if you wanted to just keep to yourself, but think about that. If you have some female reference, if you have some collaboration with women, if you have co-authors that are women, if you have women in your evaluation boards, or if you have an advisor that is a woman. So think about that. And then after you think about that, think again. From that women that you talk, how many are Black? How many are transgender? How many are indigenous? How many are disabled? So what do you think? Why do you think this happens? So when I first did this thing, I was thinking about a lot of women that I have actually met along my academic career. But when I first did, I didn't thought in any Black women. I didn't thought in any indigenous women. I didn't thought in any disabled women. So this is an issue. This is a thing that we need to fix, because these people are there. These people are doing science as well. So why can't we recognize that? Why can't we remember them when we are talking about references, when we are talking about people that make difference in our academic lives? So I left you with this thing to think about, And I will present a poster today talking about support network. Is a continuation of this talk, and I hope to see you there. I hope you enjoy it, and I'm open to questions.
Thank you very much, Luisa. What a wonderful talk. We do have some questions, actually. So I will start with a question from Carolina Machado from our chat. So remember that you can post some questions in the chat, both in Portuguese or in English. So Carolina asked, said, great presentation, Luisa. Did you already think about which things can be used to evaluate our quality as academic researchers? I think this discuss can be very important in our research life.
So Carolina, actually, some things that we believe that must be considered when we evaluate our quality. First, do research is not only about published papers. We have to advise students, we have to organize the project, we have to support, we have to collaborate. So maybe one way of evaluate the quality of a researcher would be the students that they have, would be the relevance of their study in its field. So maybe not the number of publications, but how much these publications change, make difference in the field, how much this publication is important to the field. Maybe it's still a quantitative metric, but how much this publication was cited in the last, I don't know, 5 years, 10 years. So the quantitative metrics are important. The issue is that we are only based on the numbers of publications. And that's an issue when you have, for example, mothers that stay a while taking care of their children, and thus they cannot just publish a lot of papers per year. So this type of metric is dangerous. So we need to think, I don't have the complete answer. I don't have the right answer for that, but I think we can think in alternatives, thinking about including, for example, the maternity leave when we evaluate the quality of a mother that is a researcher too. It's a good way to not focus only in the number of publications that they have. Anyways, it's a long discussion. There is no right answer, but it needs to be discussed, and we need to think about that.
Great, thank you very much, Luisa. We have a few more questions. Our session is almost over the time. We have more 5 minutes. Remember that we have another talk from Hugo Caicedo in 5 minutes as well. So I will stay with some more questions until our time is done, but in 5 minutes, the room will be closed. So I will try at least one more. So from Fernanda Hurbach, I don't know if I pronounce correctly. It's in Portuguese, so I'll speak in Portuguese. Luisa, você concorda que a falta de diversidade na ciência também promove a humilhação e opressão que muitas orientadoras ou orientadores sofrem dos orientadores? Muitos orientandos sofrem dos orientadores? Quando o orientador ou orientadora não entende outras realidades para além da sua e cria desse sistema acadêmico super homogêneo, ele ou ela não vai ter empatia pela situação dos seus orientandas, das suas orientandas ou dos seus orientandos.
I will answer in Portuguese as well. Então, Fernanda, com toda certeza, a falta de diversidade promove essa humilhação, promove essa opressão, porque é aquilo, a gente está falando de uma ignorância persistente, é uma ignorância de propósito, né? Aquela ignorância que as pessoas não têm um interesse em mudar porque elas são favorecidas. Então, se a gente está falando disso, com certeza, essa humilhação e essa opressão que os orientandos muitas vezes sofrem, eles acabam sofrendo porque o orientador não reconhece aquilo como uma humilhação, não reconhece aquilo como uma opressão, porque para ele é algo natural, é algo normal, que faz parte do ambiente acadêmico. Então, é totalmente relacionado, sim. A gente precisa mudar esse pensamento desde a base para que certas opressões e certas humilhações não sejam mais normalizadas. Porque a gente tem muitas humilhações que são normalizadas na academia, infelizmente.
Perfeito, Luisa. Lembrando que vocês podem deixar perguntas também no Discord, se a Luisa puder depois entrar lá, a gente vai tentar criar um canal, alguma coisa assim, para colocar as perguntas, e aí se a Luisa puder, ela responde por lá também, para a gente conseguir continuar essa conversa. Mais uma perguntinha aqui, da Genilda Castro de Omena Meta. Como criar grupos em instituições para representar as minorias na ciência em uma comunidade escolar que já é muito desigual, sem causar mais segregação?
Genildo, eu vou falar um pouquinho sobre isso no meu pôster, mas justamente as redes de apoio, elas são muito importantes. Eu mencionei que eu faço parte de duas, né? Sou cofundadora das duas, inclusive, que é a Rede de Mulheres na Zoologia e a Rede Cunha-Axé de Mulheres na Ciência, que eu estou com a camisa aqui. E a ideia é que é preciso haver um apoio, né? E quando você cria essas redes são entre pessoas que estão na graduação, entre pessoas que estão na pós, entre professores, e você vai criando uma rede de apoio que fortalece esses grupos. Então, acaba que, ao invés de segregá-los mais, eles se empoderam, né? Os grupos se empoderam, as pessoas se empoderam, e isso ajuda a lidar melhor com as situações e a combatê-las também. Então, é muito importante, eu vou falar sobre isso no pôster, se tiver interesse, mais tarde estarei por lá.
Muito bom, deixa eu ver se tem mais alguma, a gente está quase no finalzinho aqui do nosso tempo. Eu tenho uma da Lina, não sei se dá tempo antes da sala fechar. Eu vou falar aqui em inglês. Are universities, which have long been extremely hierarchical organizations, therefore destined to be centers of inequality? Nessa linha de se as universidades que já são organizações hierárquicas, se elas promovem um pouco essa desigualdade.
Yeah. We actually have, in Brazil specifically, we have the system is intrinsic to the academic environment and is intrinsic to the universities. So for sure, I believe these changes must be institutional. So we need to change it institutionally, and to do that, we need to be in the system, right? To change the system, we need to be in the system. So for sure, it is related to the way our university is constructed, and for sure, we need to do changes like institutional changes, so our changes in our daily lives would be accepted as well in the academy.
Luisa, so I don't think we have time for more questions. There are more questions, so I will ask you to post those questions in Discord, and we'll try to keep this conversation from there. I want to thank very much Luisa for joining us and giving this wonderful talk. Thank you very much.
It was my pleasure. Thank you so much, everyone.